So welcome everyone. We're here. We're live. We're coming at you. Jon Agnew Show, episode 1. We're kind of doing like a book club, but it's with movies, and I think we're going to do it every twice a month. Doesn't matter. We're always going to let you know at the end of every episode what the new movie is going to be for the next episode, so that you can go and watch it and then join along with us when we discuss it. Following up, we're going to start off with kind of a niche movie. It's an animated film coming out of the comic book world, DC comic books. Green Lantern, Feel My Power. Correct, Agnew?
Beware My Power.
Beware My Power. First show.
By the way, John is waiting for his signal for the rest of his bank heist to get pulled off. So he's just waiting in the back. The clerk just left. The escape car should come soon, and he's going to crack the.
Where is it? I can't stay here forever. Anyway, so
figured you'd get a podcast in. Yeah.
What surprised me about this movie was not, first of all, that it wasn't free, and that it wasn't about Hal Jordan. It's about Jon Stewart. Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, I'm just making sure I'm getting their names.
No. You're right. Yeah, Jon Stewart. Yeah, it makes you. Yeah, not the Daily Show. Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern.
It's basically his origin story. Is that accurate? Is that canon?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how accurate it is, because I think some of his origin story was, at least the one that I know, is sort of older. So it's from like the 70s. He had like a fro and things like that. He was kind of like drawn a little. I think I have some of them here from when it was like his early days. But there was, I think there was like there was an issue of Green Lantern. So Green Lantern and Green Arrow were friends. I think this movie kind of culminates a lot of storylines together all at once, right? So it kind of gives you like a fast track for Jon Stewart's life almost.
It's kind of like what they do when they take characters from books, put them into TV shows and movies, and sometimes combine a few. And this was kind of like a combined effort.
Yeah, so there were
different ways.
Right. So it kind of goes through all the women, well, not all the women, but a lot of the women in his life that he's like fallen in love with. They're all there. It pulls Adam Strange in out of nowhere. It kind of
who's Adam Strange?
I don't have all the information on Adam Strange. I know that he's kind of cursed by the Zeta beam that is part of the plot of the movie, where
that's the part that I loved.
It would sort of be like out of control. So it would get drawn to him, and he would get hit, and then get teleported somewhere else in the universe. And the thing is that he was always kind of lost. He was very capable, like he was very tech savvy, but he was always trying to get back to his wife and daughter, and would just be like, no, not now. Like he'd have like a little timer on his wrist or something like that, and he'd be like, dee, 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 dee. And then like all of a sudden he would get beamed out of there and something like that. So the cool thing is he could kind of just show up anywhere. So if you were in the middle of some big climactic thing, he would get sent somewhere, and it would kind of be almost like a quantum leap type moment where he'd be like, why did it send me here now? Like, what's going on? So it was always kind of neat to see him show up, because he was like a really good fixer. He was kind of almost like having Batman around, right? Like it was not exactly, but pretty much the same, and probably a bit more advanced technology. So where Batman wouldn't know stuff about like alien technology, he would know stuff about alien technology. And then the Rand Thanagarian War was kind of touched on as well, which was kind of like a big event.
Yes.
And they kind of just fast forward through that. But I thought that was pretty neat to see as well.
Yeah, I loved that before stuff where it's like Sinestro tried to, he thought he killed Green Lantern, but Hal Jordan, but he wasn't completely out. and then he tried to sacrifice him to that. It's one of those things where I'm like, if I want to fit information in my head, it's not going to be how to pronounce the long, weird word that I just can't get on the first try. So, but then how Jordan like became that like demon?
Oh,
Is that what
parallax.
happened?
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man, that
yeah.
was so
So
weird.
that was like the 0
That was
hour.
such a twist.
Yeah. So and that actually happened in the comics, and Hal Jordan.
Yeah, I remember the parallax thing.
It started. I went back and tried to read where it started, and I think it actually started after the death of Superman. And there were those 4 different Supermen that showed up, and one of them was like Cyborg Superman, and
Superman.
Superman.
The reign of the
His last name
Superman.
was Superman. Yeah,
Spiderman.
yeah.
Yes.
He
Yes.
he leveled Coastal City, which is Green Lantern's city, like his Gotham, and
Oh, right.
and leveled it, and Hal just kind of lost his mind about that incident. It was just kind of like brushed over, like he just like Cyborg Superman just kind of did it and then just left, and then soon after that he realized like that he wasn't actually Superman, that he was a clone of an astronaut or something like that.
Right.
As one does, and
Right, of course, astronaut.
and so Hal kind of lost his mind and then kind of lost his way from the Green Lantern Corps, and then started killing Green Lanterns and taking their rings. And then
Right.
it was later discovered that the parallax was, I think it was trapped inside the main battery. So they hadn't told anybody that parallax was inside the battery, but he had been corrupting the battery and then possessed Hal, and he became way more like Super Shredder in the comics
Yeah.
when he kind of like took his full parallax form.
Yeah, like he wasn't too intense in this movie, in this the animated version of him, like when he powers up. I don't want to get to the end yet. We'll get there.
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Because I want to
that actually
kind of walk
happens
through
in the story, yeah.
But yeah, I like how it's the story of Jon Stewart, and what happens? The ring's following him, or the ring just jumps on his finger, or why does he go? He eventually has to go to the Justice League, to the Hall of Justice, and get help from the All Stars.
Yes,
right.
He does. He went to the
because the
Watchtower.
ring talks to him.
Yeah, the
ring talks.
So the ring normally has instructions. The rules with the rings kind of change, and maybe I just can't keep track of them. For a long time, it was understood that
different writers.
There was actually a planet that was a Green Lantern.
Right.
Like an entire planet was a Green Lantern, like the whole planet. So like if you went out to space, you'd see that the grass on the Earth like planet was like had a Green Lantern symbol on it. Like the whole planet was a big ring around the planet. Anyway, and
so cool.
that planet used to direct where the rings would go next. So if a lantern died, that planet would take control and say, like, I'm sending it to this person right here because they're going to be a good person. Yeah. Now, I'm not too sure. I'm not too brushed up on Jon Stewart's origin story, so I don't think, one of the what's their names? I can't think of their names. The blue guys came down to give it to him. That maybe happened, but it seemed weird that they kind of hand delivered it. So anyway,
there was a blue guy. I remember. I forgot. It was like something crashed.
I can't think of what they're called. It's gonna bother me.
I know. Watchers.
Close.
They sort of look like the Watchers.
Yeah.
Like big round heads. So anyway, this guy comes and he's like, "Yo, it's your destiny." And finally, they bring it to the Hall of Justice. They put it in the machine. I think it's Hawkeye, Green Arrow, somebody else who I've never heard of before, and
the Guardians. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Yeah,
and somebody else that I can't remember, but I recognized. Justice League members are there, and they put it in the machine, and they're like, "Whose ring is this?" And it says Hal Jordan. So they're like, "What?" So then they go to Oa, and Oa is destroyed. Like it looks like Mandalore. Like there's no one there anymore.
Yeah, it's all leveled. They did a good job at placing some prominent Green Lanterns on the ground. So if you've ever read, a few serious Green Lantern stories, there was lots of
Easter.
Some of the most powerful ones were like more powerful than probably Hal Jordan, were laying on the ground in various places. So that was kind of enjoyable to kind of pick them out. You could kind of see them small in the background. Yeah, that was pretty neat. And then they had like the hall where different Green Lanterns were, to kind of give you the Sinestro backstory and get the power battery. So yeah, it was kind of like a good, like a little hunt, like a little like follow the trail type mystery buddy comedy. It was almost like Wizard of Oz too, because they kept picking up like a new person at every place they stopped, and everyone had to learn to get along, which was pretty fun.
I'm always like, what are these movies, these animated movies? I'm like, what are they going to be? Because it's not the origin. So I I had no clue it was going to be an origin, but it was like, it's so unique because there's so many different versions of this character of Green Lantern. There's a whole bunch that have had like long runs, like successful runs in the comics, and they still just can't figure out how to put them on a screen, big or small.
Well, I will say this, like the past few animated videos from DC have been rough because they try to subvert your expectations with what's going to happen. So if they're doing a story that everybody knows, then they try to just put a left turn and just alter the story, which kind of breaks the story. Like I think a lot of people just kind of wanted to see it animated. They wanted to see it acted out. They wanted to see the fight scenes choreographed, and they wanted to feel the impact of how some of the lines are delivered. Right. But instead they try to add time to it to make it a bit longer, instead of making it just maybe a short film because there's only a few pages of a comic book. And then they end up doing terrible things to it. Like they, for The Killing Joke, The Killing Joke was horrible. What they did to that, that was disgusting.
God, dude, what a letdown.
Like there was no need to do any of it, and
because
Batgirl
it can't be a 23. Can't be a 23-minute movie. We have to have a borderline incestuous relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, but it really feels like it is.
Nobody asked for it. Nobody asked for it. And
it's like when they add something to a TV show or a movie that's like, oh, I can't believe they did that. But it doesn't like serve the story. They clearly just do it because it's like, everybody cheer. But it's like when they do it and it like makes sense, like with Spider-Man, it's like, that's when it's like, that's like the rare thing. It's like when it serves the story you're telling. That's what it works.
Well, I mean, I think I kind of get what they were doing in that. If we're going to stick with The Killing Joke, I mean, I think I get what they were trying to do, because they set it up as kind of her not having self-confidence or being worried about things in the beginning of the movie, and then somehow that's reassuring to her. But they don't develop anything with Batman, so it just comes off as really creepy from him, because there's nothing that, I mean, if anybody knows the history, that's wrong, but then also, and nothing just within the movie hints at it either, so it just becomes this weird freak fantasy thing that occurs in the middle of it, and it just makes like you have to scratch it off, like you have to just no, you
just go, well, it's
Einhorn it, like well, gun is digging into my hip, it's just that horrible feeling.
To me, out of all the female superheroes, Batgirl was always like my top. I don't know what it was. I think it was like the purple costume, but also that I don't know. I think the one from the Adam West show, whoever played Barbara Gordon, I think she was really pretty hot. And
Yeah.
I think, and I was like, 5, and I'm like, oh, I'm learning something here. I don't know what it
Something's
is, but
interesting.
something like wrinkles in my brain are just forming at a rapid rate right now.
I mean,
Like
but I think.
l-
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
life-sustaining instincts are forming right now. No, just go ahead.
I'm on a path. The I think DC has had a problem in general with defining their characters, and they want to keep changing them when there's nothing wrong with the base character that they are. The whole point is to see what they're going to do when you put them in situations, not change
Right,
the base character and then see what happens when you put them in the same situations, right? So
right.
that like the whole thing. I mean, I was just excited for this film because I thought I was expecting the worst for one, but also I feel like everybody was written correctly. Like everybody wasn't Wolverine.
Yeah, Green Arrow was awesome.
There were, I mean, Green Arrow, I think, was the best um,
He
anchor
was so
for
good,
the
dude.
whole
Like he
thing.
was Batman. It was like we can't afford Batman. But here's the like basically the same thing.
Well, Green Arrow,
Batman from the woods.
yeah, Green Arrow through most of the animated series. I mean, he was the first character you meet in the whole Justice League Unlimited part of the series. The first episode is Green Arrow because Green Arrow is even more doubtful than Batman. So
What about forming a team?
Batman comes to recruit him, and Green Arrow's like, no, like I'm going to help out the little guy. I'm not here to fight monsters in another galaxy. Like I'm helping out like the mom and
He's
pop
like
shop
he's
that's
like
being
he's
robbed,
like
and
he's like Captain America with the Illuminati
yeah,
and Black Panther. They're like, nah, I don't think so.
yeah, I don't think so. So
You guys are up to some
it's kind
shady
of like
shit.
that. But then Batman kind of teaches them that sometimes the monster steps on the little people. And so then at the end, he's like, I'll try it out for you know a while. And they actually reference it later in the Justice League cartoon. They actually come back later and say like, hey, when you recruited me for this, like you said this
Oh,
is what
no
we'd be
way.
doing. Yeah. So they don't forget the dynamic that brought the character there or the reason that they joined, right? But the character didn't change. They just made a
Right.
decision and their life changed, right? So that was
Right.
kind of the point. But when it comes to
Right.
a lot of um, ones that have come out, and even parts of the Justice League movies, it just doesn't make much sense who the character is. So
Yeah.
you spend so much time trying to figure
Batman's
them
so
out
different.
that you don't know. Yeah, it doesn't. Batman is Superman
Like
basically,
Snyder's, yeah,
it doesn't
right.
make
Like
any sense.
Snyder's writing, like from Batman v Superman to Justice League, it was like, what? Wait a minute. How did what? You're so different now. Like,
Yeah,
I get it. I get that you changed because Superman died, but it was still. I just didn't like the way that it was written, one to the other.
yeah. It
Uh,
just kind of shifted. Yeah,
so then they discover Hal is still alive, right? Like they don't know that he just went on like a rampage.
that
They don't
that
like
that
know he did this.
and that part kind of
No?
bothered me actually because they put them in a jail cell. They got caught. They got put in a jail cell, and Hal was in the jail cell with them. So right
Oh,
then I
that's
was like,
rough.
"That's odd," because Sinestro isn't dumb by any means.
I
He's
know.
one of the
Yeah, no.
smartest villains you
I,
can come across. Like
I was just gonna say.
well, I mean, even in this movie, he plans out this big elaborate war between two worlds, and like billions of people are dying because of his plan. Yet he just takes the people who are trying to stop his plan or kill him, and he puts them in a rock wall.
He locks them up.
He's like, you stay in there. I'm not going
He
to destroy all your weapons. I'm not going to like break all green arrows in half because I need to keep them. But I'm going to put
yeah.
those away, and I'm going to put you guys away, and I'm going to put you in there with Hal. Don't plan anything. So it just, I mean, and it
Don't talk
seemed,
to each other.
yeah. I mean, and obviously, I guess we'll get into spoilers for it because of everything I guess we already did. But
Oh yeah. I'm gonna put like a spoiler warning at the beginning of every video. yeah, that would be pointless not to be able to discuss the plot points. Um, that's what I was going to say. Not to sidetrack, but Sinestro. I'm usually someone who I'm just so like, if they put another carbon copy villain of the hero, like it's the evil version of the good guy, which like Marvel did like over and over in the beginning. That's why like I had no interest in the beginning. I was like,
Right.
oh, Iron Man's fighting bigger Iron Man. Thor's fighting his brother. Like it's just I'm like, I
Ant-Man's
don't care.
fighting yellow Ant-Man.
Yeah, another right. Like stop. Like give me something completely different. That's why Thanos was so cool. It was like, oh, what's that guy? Like he's nothing like anybody. Um, so Sinestro, when he first like popped up in one of these comics that I was reading, probably Gods Among, it's like a 7-part series. Gods Among Us,
Gods Among Us. Yeah.
maybe I don't know, but anyway, he shows up, and I'm like, oh, a yellow Green Lantern, but he's basically like Lucifer, or like the fallen angel.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
he
there.
was
Yeah,
Green Lantern, and then he became bad, and then he's like nuts, like he's good, like he's like cunning. He can like he's not main boss level, but he's like right under there at times.
yeah, yeah.
He can carry a second act.
He's kind of like a Count Dooku, like that. Like it's very
Yeah.
similar. Like
Mm-hmm.
he left because he didn't believe what they were preaching,
Mm-hmm.
and he was actually right. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what caused the whole parallax thing. Because he just didn't believe in what they were doing, right? So the fact that he formed the Yellow Lanterns, which eventually broke out into all the Spectrum Lanterns, but for a while it was just the Yellow
Ooh.
Lanterns and the Green Lanterns. Um,
Oh yeah, there's like a white.
but I mean that kind of made sense, right? Like so he kind of broke off, and there was other times in the comics where he did wear a green ring again if he needed to, and he would be a Green Lantern again. And I think,
Oh really?
yeah, I think he was he's an interesting villain because he always kind of has a point. He's always kind of doing something
Yeah.
for a purpose,
Right.
and he's not completely wrong. So
Right.
it definitely makes you think. So
Right.
if you see
Like
him, it's you're like, maybe.
yeah, I'm like, oh, what's he got? What like weird plan does he have? Because every time I've ever read him in a comic book or seen him in a movie, it's always like complicated. I'm not like, well, wait a minute, is he turning good, or is that just like a really clever bad guy plan? That
Yeah,
like I don't know, if I was him, I would do the same thing that Sinestro is doing. So I'm like, God, even though he's such a derivative of Green Lantern, like a mirror, like a Bizarro of Green Lantern,
right,
he's written excellently, excellent. And then they double down on that.
right.
It's bad Green Lantern Sinestro with bad Green Lantern Hal Jordan against new Green Lantern
Yeah,
John Stewart. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. So it's like, first of all, it's not that I'm saying you can never do that in a good way. Obviously, Sinestro proved me wrong. But when you kind of like are just doubling down and like it's just another Green Lantern, I'm like, oh, come on. But you can write it so that it's cool and that it makes sense. And then they tell you how it all happened. And I thought it was amazing. Like I
yeah,
thought it was such a genius idea. Like it didn't like undermine the legacy of Hal Jordan. Um, but it wasn't like about him. It didn't like become about Hal Jordan. It was still about Jon Stewart. And
well, I mean, I think there was a few dynamics that were pretty strong. Like if you actually, I rewatched it again before we came to talk about it, and
damn it.
I think I didn't realize how much, um, between Shaira and Adam Strange, the arc that their relationship went through
Oh yeah,
within
that's
a
right.
half hour. I mean, things were kind of, it was like watching a full season of 24. People forget that they stabbed each other 5 minutes ago.
I know,
'Cause they're
I
like,
know.
wait, didn't the last hour, weren't
Yeah.
you eating a grenade from that guy or
Yeah, but
something? And it's
yeah, but
like,
that was
yeah,
a
we're
month
fine
ago,
now.
so you
Yeah,
forget.
yeah. You don't know. You don't know. It was 6 years ago. And how they kind of respect each other at the end through sacrifice and like a warrior way, even though they're mortal
Right.
enemies, right? And then
Right. Oh, that's right. I forgot about her. She
yeah,
was such a like a God, can you beat her? Like, is she beatable? Like, she was scary when she
yeah,
showed up.
she's
I'm like,
tough.
can't she
Yeah.
just kill all them? She's- All right, we'll get into Hawk Girl later.
But I mean, those dynamics were really strong. So, and I think the
Yeah,
thing
dude,
that
it was
allowed
tense.
that didn't make the Hal part fall flat was having Green Arrow there, because their relationship. I mean, there's years and years of comics of them going on adventures together and going through tough times. I mean, they went through the whole junkie phase with Speedy, and then
Oh,
there was
really?
there was the there was the
I can't,
time where
gotta stop
um,
saying that.
where Green Lantern got accused of being racist, that he was saving more white people than black people and things like that. And so like a guy called him out, and then he had to kind of spend some time and think about it, and and Green Arrow's trying to kind of help him through that.
He's
So
like,
it
just
was,
the fact that I'm saving people. Don't you think that I don't keep track? Like, I'm good enough to be a person that saves people.
yeah,
I'm
but it
not
was,
keeping
but
a tally.
well, I think the Green Lantern and Green Arrow series became more of like what was happening at the time. So there was a lot
Oh
of
yeah, of
push for
course.
the civil rights and stuff like that. So and drug use, right? So they were covering some pretty
Oh
tough
right, like
topics
cops.
in kid stuff. Yeah,
I know it's like when people complain about the movies today being so woke. I'm like, they were written in '60s.
yeah,
Stan Lee wrote this in '72.
yeah. It's like watch the. Do you even understand The Watchmen? Like, go watch it again.
Like it
Go
was
read
so.
all the news parts of that book and try to stay awake. It's deeper than you
It's
think, right?
dude, that movie. I watched that movie and it blew my mind. I feel like I waited until I'd be able to appreciate and like wrap my head around and understand just how creative it was. Uh, and it was awesome. It
I
was such a
I always
world.
thought it was done pretty well. I know a lot of people hate on it. I think the with
It's
movies
the
like that,
idea,
and yeah, but I
the
think
idea that they get across. It's like, oh, this is like endless. It's like a new little like alleyway into like another world of comic book doing.
oh sure, yeah, no, but if that's your first taste of it, if you didn't read the comics of it, then some of the
Yeah.
events happen in a different order, which kind of changes the whole meaning like a bit more, right? Like the finale in that is actually happens much earlier in the story, and then there's a whole like fallout from it afterwards, right? Like it's kind of like this big event, and then you're not left with like and that's all, folks. Like it's you now have to deal with the fallout from what happened and what happens next, right? And those are the kind of stories that are fun. V for Vendetta was very similar, where they did it way out of order, where some of the stuff that happened in the finale actually happened towards the very
Ah.
beginning, and also they took out all the Stones references, because he would make quotes from all the Rolling Stone songs, um, when he would kill people, because he was like big fan of music, because music was outlawed. So it was like things like that, where I think the films did a great job, but I think there's always going to be that kind of hate towards them because they didn't do it exactly right. And exactly right is kind of tough, but I can understand it when things
Yeah.
get shifted around for audiences. So audiences will enjoy it, like a broader audience will enjoy it.
Yeah,
But also you might actually be messing up a little bit of the theme by putting things out of order.
oh, right. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, dude, think about it. Like, when I would write the CWO scripts, I would have this outline in my mind, and we're gonna have Jeff Johnson play this character and come in. By the time we start to shoot, Jeff Johnson can't make it, and then I'd have to like course correct all the stuff that he was supposed to be involved in, and rewrite it like on the fly, and that happened like a lot. It was like never like the most reliable crew. So
No.
imagine that in like translating a thing that's on a piece of paper into a screen, and there's a time limit and all that nonsense.
Oh yeah. No. It was
People behind it, new things they want to do, stuff they want to do to fill time, like the Batman Batgirl
yeah. Right. But I mean that was just
Lannister.
that wasn't needed. That didn't need, I mean, there's other things other storylines you maybe could have pulled in for that, or just cut it short. Just let it end.
Things.
But
Cooler things.
But this one, at least, I think it combined a few things. It kind of pulled 0 Hour in, which was pretty neat. Which was the whole crisis, and actually, in that the cool thing in 0 Hour, which I thought maybe they'd do, but they didn't, was there's a point where Parallax actually does rewrite, like Hal says it in this movie. He says, I'm gonna wipe the universe clean and then start it new without war or anything like that.
Right.
And I'm gonna make it perfect, right? And in the comic book, he actually does that, and then there's 2 or 3 pages that are blank. So like you're turning. I
love
the pages,
when they do that sometimes.
You're turning the pages and it's just blank because he ended the universe, right? And then as you turn the pages, there's like a little spark and like another little spark, and then he starts creating the universe again, and then it ends up very similar to the ending of this of how he dies and stuff like that. So it was pretty tough, and it took Green Arrow a very long time to recover.
The whole idea of Green Arrow and Green Lantern, it's like okay, why? Okay, just because they're both green? No. Amazingly, the two of them together have this like insanely different life, but like also, they're both just men and just trying to do good. Well, and their adventures are so different, but could be, I don't know. I just feel like I've seen their stories advertised in comic book stores because they're popular. I haven't dived in yet, but I'm saving it.
Well, it was kind of a dynamic too of kind of bringing the two political parties together, because Green Arrow was sort of like a hippie for all intent, like he was very liberal, right? And then Hal Jordan was like a test pilot, for the Air Force, so he was very strict and very conservative, right? So both of them together kind of gave good parts to stories, because there was kind of like an odd couple type situation where they'd approach things from two different ways, similar to the way they kind of showed the Hawk and Dove in the animated series, where one would fight passively and one would fight aggressively, right? Like it was kind of it was kind of like this back and forth between the two of them. So that's I think I get that they were both green and together, but I think it was kind of just it naturally went together, like their friendship.
Yes. Right, and that's exactly what I'm saying. But it's like it doesn't matter as long as the writing and the characters in the story.
I feel like everything was honest in this. I feel like it was.
You can make something sound as goofy as possible. But yeah, I was gonna say the only negative thing about it that I could say was just my like it's Green Lantern. But everything behind it made me go, but overall it was amazing. But in the day of Pixar, the animation was just wasn't anything. I never was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Never.
Yeah.
It was fine. And it was fine enough.
It was fine. It was fine.
It was fine. This is fine.
It was fine. It was Yeah, it was actually, I found an error when I watched it the first time, where Jon Stewart, he had like dropped his ring or something like that, and so he didn't have the Green Lantern costume on underneath, and they were pretty good about it,
Mhm.
right? But then he puts it back on and gets his costume back, but then in the very next scene, he's hiding behind a box, and his costume isn't there. It's like his bare chest again, and then he ran out, and it was back on there. So, and as I was watching the credits, there was somebody's job was like a final checker. Somebody's job was like a half checker and then like a final checker or something like that. And I was like, both of you didn't do a good job, because I watched it once and I could tell you that his shirt
A
wasn't there. But I think,
half checker.
yeah, I think it. I don't know. I don't know if that's actually what their job was, but either way,
Oh,
he didn't have it on, and I was like, okay, so that's not, you messed up there. I also don't remember them ever being able to call the rings. Like, I don't, like, if they dropped their ring, that was it, and people could break the rings, and then the ring would be broken, and that would be it. Like, you'd have to go get another one. So I don't,
oh,
the
oh,
rules
weird.
of calling it like a
Yeah,
Jedi
dude.
just kind of, that kind of
The
seemed
rules of
like
that ring
too
seem
much.
so slippery. That is a slippery slope. It's like a bunch of people have them. They've
Yeah,
got all these crazy abilities. They're almost like sentient, basically, because if somebody dies, they
they are
leave and go.
sentient. I remember that. Yeah, they are. Well, they're supposed to be
Well, it
sentient based
talks.
on that planet. Like, that planet is supposed to be the one talking. Like, at least in the comics, that's the way it was for a while, and then I think it was like Sarak or something. I can't remember his name, but he was the one that was
Sauron.
dead on the ground. That kind of looks like the guy from, when the guy from Beetlejuice stretches his nose out and pulls his head
Hmm.
back. Like, he looks a lot like
Hmm.
that, and
Like
he would
Khonshu.
he would be sitting at like a command center at Oa, and like be like coordinating like where everybody goes, and like sending rings out to certain coordinates. So I've seen both sides happen.
Oh,
And then they also
weird.
say that it has like AI that's stored back in the main battery, and it downloads new databases and stuff like that. So it seems to change a lot, right? So it does seem to change a lot. And but
The
I
battery. The
but I
battery. That's something I wish they would. I wish they could have come up with something else.
Well, he's
But
got to be able to
again, it's
run
like,
out.
well,
He's got to run
what
out of
else would it
juice,
be?
right? Like, because otherwise you're like, he's just gonna. It just doesn't make much sense, right? Like, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna try harder, and then it's like more power.
It's like when people. I'm sure we've talked about this, but it's like when people complain about Hulk not being like Rage Hulk. It's like, well, then the movie's 5 minutes. If you
Yeah,
make him the Hulk that you
he
want,
punches the earth in half, and we're done. We're out of
like
orbit.
he
That's it.
has to have way more depth to be in a longer movie than 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's why they had to cut them down for like Ragnarok, and I mean that's why they had to kind of put them into more of a
Right.
power
An
centric
arena.
arena, right?
Right.
So that it was a bit more even. Because if they had shown up for like Ultron,
Right. They can't just have every movie like
it
that
would have
where he
been like,
just
sort of
destroys
grabbed him and then like,
destroys
what?
cities.
Yeah. So yeah,
So in
I
closing,
understand that. Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna give it a rating. But yeah, I think it's cool that when they have complicated weapons that like fans debate, like they go, well, no, they can do this, and it's just
I'll
adds to
give it
the
a rating.
fun.
Let's give it a rating. Let's do that. What do
A
you want to do it
rating.
out of? Yeah.
Well,
Out of
then
10?
I'm gonna no, I want to do it out of something different.
The numbers?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, not numbers. Um, yeah, 10. To me, it's a 9 out of 10, only because the animation was just dopey.
Oh, I wouldn't give it a 9 out of 10. No. I mean, like, in general, I thought it was a little boring. Like, it wasn't anything that you couldn't get from the Justice League cartoon for the most part. Like, you kind of meet most of those characters in that.
Dude, see, I wasn't bored at all because I was so caught off guard by what it even was about. I didn't like look at anything. I didn't read anything. I went in so blind, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is like how he becomes the guy." And oh my, yes, I loved it. I was
I mean,
blown away.
I think, I guess I'm looking at the whole spectrum of at least the animated movies. if I had to put like the animated movies
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
like
I'm
like
just going.
a tier level, where what would be the worst?
Oh,
I mean, Killing Joke would be pretty far down, right? But I think but like Wonder Woman 2009, I still think that is the best opening scene of any DC movie. Probably even the live action, even live action. If the Wonder Woman movie had taken the 2009 animated Wonder Woman opening, which it could have because it was basically exactly the same plot as what they did with the Gal
oh,
Gadot
really?
movie, they,
Right.
that opening scene would have been the best opening scene of the year because it's so well choreographed and
Yeah.
it introduces so much stuff within such a short period of time that you know
Ooh, I
exactly
love when
where
that
you are.
happens.
You get
I love when
kind
they
of
establish, like, the 5 things, like, where they are, what time period, who's there. When they shove all that in like the beginning,
there
just
isn't
get
like
going.
a wasted bit of dialogue or a
And that,
wasted frame in the whole opening sequence. The rest of the movie, not there's definitely parts that could be better, but the opening is insane.
it's so funny. Like, origin stories are they're so tricky. And I guess I didn't, because sometimes I can't stand them. Uh, there's some that, like, if a movie or a show is going to do it or attempt it, I'm just like, there's no, even Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, like, I don't want to see their origin stories anymore. I just want to, like, get the fucking, let's get it going. Like, they're now, like, they're here, like, they're today.
I don't
Like,
need
put
it
them in
again.
and let's
Yeah.
just roll. Like, Jesus. Yeah, I don't want to see those pearls shatter, break
I got
apart.
it. I got it. I didn't even like that in the
I
Joker. I
get it.
really liked the Joker movie. I did not like that they pulled Batman into it. I feel like it
Yeah,
would have been just
I know.
fine
I was like,
if they
don't
had
do
just left that
it.
out, because it didn't add if anything it took away because it was distracting because we were looking
Yeah,
for Batman clues or
yeah, it was like the part where during the movie where I was like, okay, comic book nerd is getting angry, but movie fan is still satisfied.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
This is all still pretty neat.
you're so numb from the caliber of the acting that like, you're you're
On
like,
my ride home, I was like, wait a minute, are they brothers?
yeah,
No.
yeah.
Wait, are they brothers? Is that what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, I felt as confused as like the first time I watched the Mission Impossible movie. Like I was like, was there a knock list? What?
Knock list. Somebody said
Who
something
was the
about
bad
knock list.
guy? Wait,
Wait,
who?
knock list was that movie?
So, so, so who had the rich? Who had the wristwatch camera? Who did they shoot themselves? Did they kill themselves? I'm so confused.
Sean Connery, isn't it? Wasn't it? He wasn't in that movie. And Nicolas Cage, Ed
John
Harris,
Voight. John Voight. John Voight's
John
great.
Voight. John Voight's a wacko. Um, yeah. So, but no, but see, to me, it was like, uh, they tie it all together really well, and like I said, he went to the Justice League. I'm expecting Batman, Superman. No, it's like the second string are there,
Right.
and I'm like, oh, Green Arrow, sweet. Oh yeah, he can help him. He knows how. They've been like together, So like, I'm like I said, I'm not like I don't know a lot of those stories of the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, but I know that they're connected, and I know there's tons of them.
Right.
So that was cool to kind of like be
And
in
the
on
movie
that.
showed you that they're friends, right? As soon as he
Yeah.
identifies his ring as Hal's ring, Oliver's like right in his
Oh
face with an
right.
arrow, like, "What did you do to my friend?" So
And
there was good reactions there.
I love the Green Lantern or Green Arrow with the mask and the hat. And like the toy, like he literally looks like the toy
Yeah,
that I have.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I we said we were gonna do movies, but then you mentioned that you watched The Sandman. I mean, I recommended it to you, and it
As
seems like
per
you
your
watched it,
recommendation, I watched the whole thing. Yeah,
and you watched it pretty quick. So I want to do that, go over that with you next.
Okay.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, go ahead and watch it. I
Not with your kids.
to me, no way. uh, to me, it just looked like a lot of fun to be a part of. And every episode has its own little miniature arc in like a, longer overarching, really cool tale of existence.
Can I make a request for you to for homework for you to do? Because I went a little bit further down the rabbit hole of Sandman, because I don't want to get into what we'll talk about next, but I was back and forth on it a little bit, right? And
yeah, I knew you would be.
Especially the
I was too.
There's a diner episode, and that one kind of got me. The 24 hours.
What happens?
The whole episode's in the diner. It's an entire episode in the diner.
Oh, dude, because I was like, my whole experience with it was very like in and out. Like I was on the phone, I was like, this isn't good. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, I can't stop watching. This is so amazing.
Yeah, you might need to go back and watch that one. That one's really intense.
I think it was like when he finally went down to hell is when I just didn't stop watching from that point forward, unless this diner scene is after.
Well, that I don't remember if it's before or after now, because that was I mean, for a little bit, it was kind of like a Metroid game where you lose all your powers and then you have to get all your powers back. So each one just seemed kind of like, all right, now I'm going to go do this one, and now I'm going to go do this one, And so I'm not sure. I don't remember.
He's like, I need my helmet. I'm like, aren't you invincible, basically?
It's like, but I made it with my power and I need it, and then I'm going to get it. And then once I have it, I'll have my power. It's like, but how did you get there without your power? Yes. But
it's
now
like,
I have my power.
But the dark side of the force was clouded. Oh, what was it clouded by? The dark side of the force.
Yeah, very dark sided. It was dark.
It's clouded by its darkness.
But there's a fan film. There's a fan film that was made for like 3 or 4 years ago. It's on YouTube. Don't watch it at work. Where they made that one, because that's actually like straight from the comics. That
made what one?
That episode, that diner episode. So if you look for like 24 hours fan film, Sandman, like in YouTube, you'll find it. It's like the number one you'll hit, and I would recommend watching that along with maybe reviewing parts of of Sandman, and then watching that. And I'd like to hear your comparison of the two of those. They're very much similar. They're very similar,
wow.
But there's a few tweaks and a few interesting things that happened in the other one that kind of make it a little bit more fun for a DC fan, I would say.
Yeah, that's right. It was originally supposed to be a DC, just a new DC character, not like this thing by itself.
Right. Yeah, he would visit like Martian Manhunter and Batman. He'd meet everybody.
Awesome.
And I think he was based more around, like, a lot more stuff would happen around Gotham. So in the TV show, it's not that character, but in the comic, it was an escapee from Arkham Asylum that was the character in the diner. So it was like a little bit different, but it was kind of neat to see that it was somebody from
Arkham. Wait. So the whole episode, they're in a diner.
Yes.
Okay. And they're within the episode, it's like these two people are in a diner for 24 hours.
It's not two people. It's like a group of people. It's kind of like that movie. What was that movie? Like Identity or something like that, where everybody's in like a motel and they're all stuck together, and it's like all these different personalities. It's kind of like a play. It works out like a play.
I'm trying to see it in my head. I'm really interested.
You would know. Now, there's no way. You must have just skipped it or not.
Yeah, like I said, dude,
it was intense.
I watched the first episode 4 times. I kept falling asleep because I was just like, I'm not gonna get it. It's just gonna go over my head, whatever. So I'd fall asleep. Finally, I finished it, and then I must have been awake still, and the second episode started. Not until he goes down to hell until I was like, ooh, all right, well, now what? And I know he was trapped for a while, so people had weird sleep issues. But anyway, that's what I'm gonna probably have to rewatch by my Swiss cheese recap right here, and then we'll do that in a week or so, and obviously post it and let you guys know on all of our social media platforms and outlets. So don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.
I thought you actually froze, so that's why. You got me. You got me good.